Same with property crime. If you look at property crime, there seems to be a peak or a spike in Pima County, Green Valley District for 08, a trend upward in the Santa Cruz County Sheriff Department District 2, but it's hard to draw an overall conclusion. If you look at the rate of increases and so on with the state lines, it's inconclusive. I'm going to close now, but I want to have 3 takeaways. You have the conclusions and recommendations. I don't have to read them for you, but there's 3 takeaways. One thing we found is that the checkpoints do serve a purpose, but performance measurement has to be made more solid. The data have to be better, the measures themselves have to be better, the collection has to be consistent. The second thing is as Border Patrol is designing checkpoints and placing them, consideration also has to be given, more consideration has to be given to circumvention routes and addressing them. And the third takeaway is what I just mentioned. The available data on crime, property values, and all those other things are interesting. They show trends, but they're limited in that you cannot directly link them to the checkpoint. I understand that Chief Gilbert's going to come up and talk about the recommendations and conclusions and what the Border Patrol plans are, and after that, would be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you again, Representative Giffords.
Thank you. Very appreciative, and I believe that this community is very appreciative for your willingness to come out and present the report in person, the real people behind the GAO, and also Adam and Amy, thank you for being here. I'd now like to ask Chief Gilbert to come up on stage and any other of your folks from the Border Patrol to come and address some of the issues brought up in the checkpoint study.
Good morning, everybody. Congresswoman, I'd like to thank you and you and your staff for your efforts behind all of this. I know jointly you and I and our staffs and in this community, we've met more than 45 times on this very issue here, and I appreciate your time and effort and interest in this. And Mr. Stana, Adam, Amy, thank you. I know you all spend a lot of time in Southern Arizona, a lot of time with my agents, and we appreciate your efforts in this as well. Just as the GAO report points out, checkpoints do contribute to the Border Patrol's mission, but it also points out that we've failed in several areas, especially in the areas of data collection. Also, in the interest of time, I know it's in your packet is the Department of Homeland Security's response to the recommendations. And those are responses that we've already taken action plans on. We're already moving on it, especially in the area of data collection. We've been struggling with that for years. We've reached out beyond our own ranks, if you will. We've talked to other government agencies, other law enforcement agencies. We've talked with the Department of Defense, and we have not been able to come up with a good set matrix. We've been working with GAO and getting their input as well. And most recently, we've reached out to academia. One of the centers of excellence for Homeland Security grants is the University of Arizona, also University of Texas, El Paso, Texas A&M, Duke, and a host of other universities. We've partnered up. It was decided the University of Texas, El Paso would take the lead on this. So now we're working with academia to try to come up with a better way to measure our effectiveness. And I think that's important because the Secretary's position has been very clear. She wants this issue resolved, and we're going to take all measures that we can to make sure that we come up with a better matrix. One of the things we've also done is we've gathered subject matter experts, not just within the Border Patrol, but outside. We've already established working groups on how to identify and classify and better establish these matrices. These are some of the steps we've taken very early on, but that's not the end. And Chief Aguilar is committed also, and I've heard from him that he wants to make sure that we reach outside of our own environment, if you will, to make sure that we're getting input from a lot of other people, because everybody looks at things slightly different, and I think that's important. We've been consistent. The Border Patrol, I've been here 2.5 years now, and I've been very consistent and transparent with everybody in all these meetings, and a checkpoint is not something we want. We've identified why we need a checkpoint. The numbers are the numbers, they speak for themselves.
At the ports of entry, the federal goal is to detect and apprehend 30% of major illegal activity, and this shows the need for a three-tiered strategy.
But even more than that, the impact that a checkpoint can have on our border security mission. And that's something, obviously, that we take very seriously. We want to make sure that we do our role in the United States Border Patrol to make sure that we do everything in our power to keep our communities safe. The communities just don't end close to the border. They extend in through the entire United States. And you know, what's occurred here in Arizona in the last 10 years with the flow of illegal aliens, excuse me, and the flow of narcotics, it's been staggering. And it's the communities right here in Quebec, Green Valley, up and down this I-19 corridor that have been impacted. And impacted, you know, in a big way. The numbers are coming down. We are having successes. This year we're going to wrap up with about 250,000 apprehensions. That's still way too many, and it still represents nearly 50% of everything happening on the southwest border. But keep in mind, in 2000, that number was over 600,000. In that period of time, we've more than doubled our workforce. We built 210 miles of different styles of fencing on the border. We've added defense in depth through the staffing. We've also brought technology to bear. And this year, we're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor. Numbers are going down, and efficiencies are going up. One of the things that has occurred this year is, in the first 10 months, we seized over 1 million pounds of marijuana right here in Tucson sector. And the most diverse corridor for the entire nation is this I-19 corridor. That hasn't changed. Numbers are coming down, but they're still very high. The activity levels are still very high. We're all very much aware of the violence in Mexico, the warring cartels, and everything occurring down there. They're not going away. And they're still making enough money that Chapo Guzman is currently number 703 on Forbes' most wealthy people in the world. And he's the kingpin of the Sinaloa cartel. That's the kind of money he's making off his smuggling efforts. So we know we have a lot of work to do, but we are making progress. Department of Homeland Security, we accept the recommendations of the GAO report. There's no questions asked. We can't argue it. But there were a couple points that I'd like to bring out out of the report, specifically to Tucson sector. One was working with the community. That is something we have done here. And a lot of us know each other personally because of these many meetings we've had. So that's something we've done to date, and it doesn't end today. As we continue down this path, we're going to continue working with the community, working with our law enforcement partners, and making sure as we go forward that we go forward collectively. Now, we understand we're not always going to agree on everything. But the Border Patrol's position has been, like I said, in the 2.5 years I've been here, it has been consistent and it's been transparent. We need a Border Patrol checkpoint on I-19. And we're going to continue pursuing that. And I believe what the GAO report says supports that. But not just pursuing it blindly, but making sure that we identify the dangers, we identify the impacts on the communities, and we continue to work with you and our partners. Also, the location we've chosen, there was a lot of thought that went into that. And it looks like the Arizona Department of Transportation is going to identify that as the proper location as well, and validate it as being the safest place to put the checkpoint in our corridor. Real quick, what's happening also here in Tucson sector? As mentioned, 4% of the Border Patrol resources on the southwest border are seizing 35% of the narcotics at the checkpoints. In our sector here, we're using 10% of our workforce at the checkpoints. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we don't want to understaff. We don't want to slow down the flow of legitimate traffic and commerce. So at times we may seem overstaffed. I also want to make sure that we have the resources available to go to those flanking areas, to go to the areas, the circumvention areas where people are walking around. So we're going to continue making sure that we staff properly. Another challenge we face is we all know they're redoing the port of entry in Nogales. We're going to be spending over $200 million on a new port of entry. We have to make sure that the facility we build 30 miles north does not become a bottleneck.
At the ports of entry, the federal goal is to detect and apprehend 30% of major illegal activity, and this shows the need for a three-tiered strategy.